In this video, we're going to be using both the hinge joint and the spring joint, both as platforms and obstacles and other such experiments, just for fun. So if you haven't already, let's reset the spring joint 2D component values. We could do this by going to the gear and pressing reset. What we're going to do with the spring joint now is basically have it as a boost platform. Basically meaning when we want it to, it's going to throw the player up. To do this, we're going to move it up a bit. Move the connected anchor. And move it down again. And we're going to toggle freeze position Y on. Press play. Untoggle configure distance. Press play. Untoggle freeze position Y. Usually this would be done with scripting as soon as the player collides with the platform and would launch it up. But here I just wanted to make an example very quickly. Now let's make the spring joint an obstacle. Move it to the right. Move the connected anchor a little ways down. Move the platform further if you want to. Move the player down. We're basically going to have the spring joint as this elastic bullet. Now press play. Now let's see it untoggling the Y position. It makes it that much more unpredictable. That's about enough for the spring joint. Let's go back to the hinge joint. Let's turn off the spring joint. Let's turn on the hinge joint collider. We're going to move it over here. And this time, we're going to experiment with its motor capabilities. So remember, toggle use motor to use motor. And if the values are not 20 for motor speed and 10,000 for motor force, go ahead and do that right now. Once all that's implemented, press play. Oh, and make sure to put brake force and brake torque back to infinity. Now press play. As you can see, it's a slow moving spiral of death right now. We can do this by changing the speed. Remember, maximum motor force only controls how far back it pushes the player upon collision. You can edit it if you want to, but it's not necessary. While increasing motor speed will dramatically increase its speed depending on value. We can increase the speed by dragging it dynamically with the mouse. Or we could just type it. It's all on personal preference. Mouse if you want the value exactly. Let's try to get the player moving past it. And the player gets through. Now let's combine both approaches to make it an interesting challenge. Let's turn the spring joint back on. Reset it. Move the platform back. Let's move the player up a bit. We're going to have the player get through the hinge joint collider, this time going in a counterclockwise position. But first, let's move the spring joint up a bit. Move it higher if you need to. Just make sure the player is above the platform and that the hinge joint collider / wrecking ball is right next to them. And to set it counterclockwise, we just have to make the speed negative. Let's set the speed to -40. Press play. As you can see, it could temper up the spring joint and make some pretty interesting level design and problems the player might need to get through. Right now, the Wrecking Ball is moving at a snail's pace right now. We could edit the speed. So instead of 40, let's increase to negative 100. Feel free to experiment if you need to. In this module, we covered hinge joint and spring joints, and how they can be used as both platforms, obstacles, and other ways of interacting with each other to create interesting situations. In the next module, we're going to be going over effectors.